And this was weird, man. Like, not only
all
weird,
of this is weird.
makes me angry.
It's all weird.
So they get it going from episode 10.
Oh, the places will go. Or not go. I don't know. I don't know.
This was somewhat of a polarizing episode for some. Some people love it. Some people dislike it.
The girls are fighting on the forums. They're fighting.
They're going in. But in all honesty, I think it was pretty solid because hopefully they're setting us up for a season 2. Hopefully we get a season 2.
I really enjoyed this episode, even though I was a little frustrated, but it wasn't a bad frustration. It was a good frustration because it kind of gave me some hope. And I was thinking, like, what is happening with this bus? Anyway, we're skipping ahead. Let's get to the episode.
And of course, as you know, we do our recap of the episode and we pause to kind of discuss character development and major points that we want to make. So let's just get right into it. The episode starts off with Ethan, and he's at home playing with some finger puppets, doing his thing.
Not really.
And he's like, his sister wakes up. She's like, "You want me to tell you a story?" And he's like, "Yo, I don't need no story. I got lessons from the ultimate storyteller, Victor." So my man is growing up exponentially, and really interesting stuff. And then it jumps into Jade, who's doing Jade things. That's what it should be called. Jade doing Jade things.
That's a segment.
Busting into the Matthews family's home.
Looking for his teacup.
Once again. But he's incredibly excited because he's figured out how they're going to power this lighthouse.
Right. Not the lighthouse, colony house.
I'm sorry, the colony house. I'm jumping ahead. Look, they're going to power the lighthouse.
We're keeping jumping ahead. But yes, they're trying to light up that tower on colony house to try to get a signal to see if they can reach somebody outside of this hellscape that they're trapped in.
Exactly. And he shows them that if you take an electronic that was not already there in this community,
splice the wires,
connect it to a lamp, you can power a device. And he shows them that he's powering a hairdryer, and that epiphany moment is going on, and they're incredibly excited.
Yeah, and they are going to get this to work because everybody has something in their car that they left behind from previous, their lives before. So, I mean, there's going to be plenty of power.
Exactly. And one of the things I thought was kind of interesting about this scene as Jade is leaving is that he calls Jim a teacup. And I'm kind of like, where is this coming from? Because to me, that term is kind of like derogatory. It's a little bit insulting.
Really? I thought it was his way of giving Jim a term of endearment.
No.
Maybe.
No.
No?
No.
Why?
And it's interesting to me because we've seen Jim boss up on Jade on numerous occasions and check him. And it's just weird that Jade would be comfortable trying to call him a teacup. But I guess that's neither here nor there because it actually leads into his daughter later on in the episode challenging him on it. But let's keep it moving. So then it transitions to Boyd and Sarah. And we're excited because we're getting ready to figure out where these people are.
Right.
Because last episode
they were being dragged. They heard a loud, what we thought was a mooring from a boat, and a really bright light. And after they were being just dragged, and we originally thought it had to be Victor. It was not Victor.
I was more so hoping it would be Victor. There was so many different themes. People thought it was a large spider because they thought they were seeing large spider legs pulling the tent. But they did verify something because Sarah said they were being pulled, which some people also thought it could have been like a UFO with a tractor beam and was pulling the tent.
Right.
So we found out that the tent was actually pulled and dragged, but we still don't know what was doing it.
I don't think we're dealing with aliens. I'm sorry. I just don't think aliens is part of this universe.
Yeah.
At this point.
And there's a moment between Sarah and Boyd that I want to point out because it is the moment that we start to see Boyd's personality severely change. And Sarah is cutting like a worm in half inside of the tent. And she asks something to the effect of, "Do you think that these worms know where they are? Do they like being here?" And Boyd has this very indifferent and really condescending attitude in response to her. Something to the effect that, they're shitty animals. I don't think that they care. This is a shitty environment. And to me, it's like a transition to what we see his personality going to later on in the episode, and that he's turning very pessimistic, kind of angry a little bit.
And that's Donna's job, not his.
That's Donna's job.
I mean, no, but his personality did change, and I think we're gonna kind of get a hint of why that is. But I mean, everybody has had some type of breakdown in this show, some type of nervous breakdown. I think he's hitting his. He's getting to his nervous breakdown.
Yep. And it's kind of like foreshadowing of where Boyd is going to be going personality wise throughout this episode. And it's really interesting. I'm going to make another comparison later, and you're going to hate me, but I'm going to make it anyway. So they walk outside of the tent, and we see spider webs just all over the place, just all over. And it's like, and some people, I guess it's solidifying what they thought was that maybe it was this giant spider, but we don't know what was pulling the tent.
I thought that, you know, maybe these creatures or monsters are being wrapped or cocooning out of these large spider webs. I don't know though.
I mean, who knows? And then it just as we thought we're going to kind of see what's going on around them, it transitions to Jim and Jade being inside of the cafe, and the whole community's there, and they're explaining what the plan is going to be, and they showcase how they could then power electronic devices by utilizing the lamps and stuff like that in the community. And they tell everybody, go and salvage any vehicle, anything that had electric wires that was not already here. So people start to go out and salvage vehicles and things like that to get the power, to get the cords and stuff like that, so they can try to power these things.
And Donna is talking to Sheriff Kenny. We cut to Donna talking to Kenny, and she's also very indifferent about leaving. Again, this theme of people being hesitant about this plan working or not going. And, you know, Fatima isn't the only one. It's Donna as well. But I think the difference between Donna and Fatima is Donna is willing, well, no, I would say Donna and Fatima are willing to help the cause. And I think it's Donna is more of the line of, I don't want people, the hope and the disappointment. I'm going to be realistic, but I'm still going to help you guys out. Which
I guess is a solid stance, because when you've been in this type of environment, you know, anytime you can create a sense of normalcy, you want to hold on. You want to hold on to that. And ever since, you know, Boyd found the talisman, you know, there was a sense of normalcy in this crazy environment.
Right.
So then it transitions, you know, to Kenny and Chrissy, who are having a pretty cool moment inside of the ambulance as they are salvaging the vehicle, pulling out electric wires and things like that. And Kenny brings over like a vase, and not a vase, but he brings over like a lamp, and the lamp actually has a compartment that you can open. And inside of it, he has like some messages and notes and things like that about different places he wants to visit and things like that. And then he kind of bosses up a little bit.
Yeah, and asks kind of Chris in a roundabout way, asks Chrissy out. Like, maybe we can go together. Dudes, just ask the girl, would you go out with me? Why do we have to play these reindeer games? Just ask her, Kenny. But he does. He kind of says, you know, we can go together. But Christy is like, well, I've got a fiance waiting at home for me, and I'm hoping that she's waiting on me, and hasn't forgotten about me, and I'm holding out hope that we're getting out of here. You know, and of course Kenny, being a guy, feels, you know, kind of like really embarrassed.
I mean, but this is the thing. I think he's embarrassed, but I think he was also hurt, because I think he felt like they built a very good rapport and a good relationship. And he is like kind of just taken back, and he's like just kind of walks off, like just kind of really in shock, because I think that was the first time that he tried to be vulnerable in that way. And he just got friend zoned, and probably he's thinking like, why are you still thinking about somebody that you don't even know still is thinking about you, in love with you, and maybe possibly moved on with their life.
But Chrissy, I mean, they're in this together in this trauma bond bubble. I mean, she doesn't owe Kenny anything.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't owe him anything, but
kindness and respect.
And respect. But we get a moment later on in the episode where things kind of change. But once again, this was another part of the episode that was somewhat fascinating to me because the pacing in this episode, I don't want to say it was weird. They spent a lot of time at that moment between Kenny and Christy, like probably like 10 minutes. And me personally, as I'm watching, I'm like, can y'all kind of get off of them so we can kind of see what's going on?
I felt like that a lot about this episode where people were just talking
for a long time.
Maybe because it was like, oh, this is the last episode, and I was kind of hanging over my head, and I was thinking, why are we having all these long conversations? I guess these goodbyes. It seems like, and
and this is, and we have a theory about the bus that pulled up, but I'm kind of speculating that the reason why they took so long showing that relationship is that there's going to be somebody special who's actually going to arrive on that bus when they come. But we'll talk about
if we get a season 2.
If we get a season 2. But I think that's why they took time to show them. But then also I think that they're trying to give other characters maybe a spotlight, because if season 2 is to go on, this season has been for the most part kind of about Boyd a little bit. And I guess if you're going to expand this series, you're going to need to have other characters playing a larger role, or, you know, having a little bit more dimension, as you would say.
Yeah.
So after that moment between Kenny and Christy, it transitions to Tabitha, who's going inside of a barn and she's picking up a pickaxe because she's been digging that hole.
I don't know what Tabitha's problem is.
She's been digging that hole.
The worst. I mean, she just wants to get kidnapped. She's asking for somebody to do something to her at this point. It's like, please. It's like everywhere she has to go off alone. She has to let people take her son off alone. She has to. Why are you doing this now? Can wait. The hole can wait.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Her focus is on that. So she gets this axe so that she has something else to dig up.
I don't know if something is compelling her to keep digging the hole, but no, nothing's compelling her. I don't know.
But there's also a moment there because she's speaking to the neighborhood bar manager or whatever you want to call him. But in this moment, we discover that he has not been helping at all to help build the tower. He has literally just been doing his own thing. And she says, well, why are you not going to engage with this? Why are you not going to help? And he says something to the effect that, you know, I've seen people who tried to have hope, they tried to escape, they just end up back in my bar. And his attitude and his demeanor is intriguing to me because we've talked about this in our previous episode, that we feel that there are some people who actually prefer where they're at. And we even feel like there's going to be people at some point who are going to actually jeopardize their ability to leave. And he kind of feels like one of those characters, him and also Fatima. There's just something about them. We're going to talk about Fatima a little bit later in this episode.
The difference between him and Fatima is trying to help. He is not trying to help. So that's kind of like weird. And I don't know about you, but he sounds a lot like the man on the radio.
I mean, that is an interesting observation because he was one of the few people that was not there. So that's a very interesting point that you make about that. Very, very interesting. And it transitions to Ellis and Fatima. They have a moment now.
Everybody's having a moment.
Yeah, everybody's having a moment. And Fatima is inside and she's helping to strip wires. And Ellis comes to her and says, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. And Fatima's like, I'm busy, bro. But he's like, no, I need to have a moment with you. And he takes her outside. They're standing outside in the yard. And he's saying, this is the spot where I initially saw you when you came into the town. And he's kind of describing that moment of seeing her and, you know, the passion that, you know, I guess he kind of had with her. And he kind of goes on to say, hey, I really care about you. We don't know what's going to happen when we put up this tower. I want to have a more systemic relationship with you. And basically proposes to her and says, would you marry me? And we both felt some kind of way about this because he's on his knees. He's being very vulnerable, Ellis is. But once again, it's something about Fatima. To me,
she's just off.
Yeah, it's something about her. The look on her face seems as if she felt obligated to say yes. It didn't, to me, come from a place of a person who's saying, yes, I can't believe this. I love you so much.
Yeah.
I can't believe that, you're proposing to me. It really feels like she's like, oh shoot, what do I do?
Man, like dang, I can't say no.
I can't say no.
And
some of it, like, and I've kind of felt this way about her. It really feels like to me like Fatima really has a hard time fully committing herself to one person or one thing. Like, she doesn't want to be like hurt, or she doesn't want to fully commit to anything,
or she doesn't want to be held down or held back in some way.
And it's really interesting because in previous episodes we've talked about how we feel like she prefers being there because she doesn't want to go back to her previous life. And we talked about how there's been many occasions, and this was in one of our previous episodes, where Jim's daughter would think about trying to go home, writing lists, important things,
remembering people. She would always pop up and kind of interrupt that train
Fatima.
of thought.
Yeah.
And so I think Fatima is comfortable where she is, and she ran from something, I think, and she has a freedom here that maybe she didn't have on the out.
Yeah. And like I said, something about her character, I think if we do get a season 2, I think we're going to see some dramatic shifts and really see what Fatima is all about if we get that season 2. And at this point, it transitions back to Boyd and Sarah. They're in the forest and walking. And Sarah's kind of saying, look, I think that we need to leave. Because that voice that I heard when we were in the tent, it was a female voice. It was telling us we need to go back. And the voice clearly identified Boyd because it said something to the effect, tell Mr.
Fish and Loaves.
Yes, that you need to turn around and get out of here. But just as she's explaining that and really trying to emphasize the need of, hey, maybe we need to turn around, Boyd hears something, but Sarah doesn't hear it. So Boyd is like hearing things, and he hears a female voice, and he starts running through the forest, pushing aside all of these different cobwebs and spider webs, and he goes into like a tree with a bunch of them, and he sees who he thinks is his wife, but it turns out to be, I guess, some type of hallucination or demon, because it reaches out, grabs him, and it scares him, and he immediately runs out, and he trips over like a hole in the ground, and dozens of these small spiders come out and they crawl all over him, and they begin to bite him and poison him, and he takes off his shirt, and he's just kind of really having a really difficult time. And as we're seeing him get bit, we start to also see again Boyd's demeanor and things are really starting to change. And just as we kind of start to get a feel about what's going on there, they make another transition, and we're seeing everybody in the town starting to set up the tower, and we see the Matthews son ask a question like, where's Victor? And
good question.
Yeah,
young
we've been
man.
wondering exactly.
Good question.
The only one that seems to be asking and giving a damn about Victor, right? Especially since Victor seems to have some answers. And he says something really interesting. He says, well, Victor's probably off doing his job while we're doing our job. Which is really intriguing because I swear it seems like to me the young man is starting to get some of the intuitions and the abilities that Victor appears to have. So interesting stuff there to me. And then it transitions back to Sarah and Boyd, and we start to see Boyd being super impacted by the spider bites, and he's really starting to act out of character because he's starting to act like really frazzled, and like he doesn't know what to do with himself. He's starting to become very unsure, and he says something to the effect like, I hate this place. It gives you hope, and then it just tricks you.
It takes it away.
And to me, like that moment, I'm watching this show, and I'm like, dang, he's really changing because he's gone from being this optimistic.
I think this is a game.
What you mean?
Like, I don't think that this is like Aliens. I don't think that this is, purgatory. I think this is like a game, almost. I don't know. Like, for him to say, I don't know, something about that statement to me hit home, because it's like, this place gives you hope and it takes it away. It almost puts me in the mind of what Donna said a couple episodes ago when she was explaining how her sister died, about how the monsters, how they hunt, and they hunt, it's like for fun because they take their time and they like to hear the scream. So I don't know. And all of that, I say all that to say is that to me, this seems like one big game.
And I can see that because the point of the game would be, I guess, to break you down and stuff like that. But as they continue to have a conversation, it's almost like Sarah's and Boyd's roles began to completely switch. Because at this time, Boyd is trying to quit. He's like trying to stop going. And he's like, I don't think I can make it. I don't think I could go. And Sarah at this point is being the one that's reasonable, that's motivating him.
To keep going.
Keep going.
Please bring that up later on at the end of the episode because I have a theory about that.
Okay. And then as they're going, then this large rumble starts to happen and these clouds are coming in and this huge storm is coming in. And then we see Jade. He's all excited. He's like, I'm going to roll off on my bike. I'm like, bruh, you just going to take this bike.
Where are you going?
But where are you going? But like, you just stole this bike and just made this bike your bike.
I guess.
So they're like, where are you going? And he makes up something talking about he's going to go get some papers, I guess.
Yeah,
to roll
his
up
roll-up
something.
papers. He's like, I know you wouldn't approve, Dad. I'm just going to go do that. Jade is doing Jade things.
Doing Jade things, right? And he goes over to Kenny's house and he sees Kenny's mother there and she's praying. And they have a very, to me, a powerful moment. A moment that we haven't seen before on this, I think, of this show this entire season.
Especially between these two.
Yeah. And then we also see a completely different side of Jade. You know, 90% of the time, Jade is kind of like this arrogant, kind of a butthole. Just feels like he knows everything. And this is the first time we see him get very vulnerable because Kenny's mother is just talking about, like, if we do leave this place, she's so sad that she's leaving her husband because, of course, she's buried her husband in this place. Yeah. So if they leave and escape, her husband's body won't be coming with her. It would just be stuck in this place. And she's probably thinking metaphorically, where's my husband's spirit at? Yeah. Where's, if she seems like a religious person, so I would assume that she thinks her husband probably has a spirit or something.
Be trapped there.
Exactly. And Jade really comforts her and gives her some powerful words of wisdom and shares how that when you pass, like, he's gonna come with you. He's with you.
They go with you.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful moment. Just something that I hadn't seen from Jade. And once again, like I said, they're giving us
layers to these people.
Yeah. Giving us different layers that we didn't get before. And like I said, I'm hoping that they were doing that because this is helping to build where they're going to take us with season 2. And after that wonderful moment, it transitions back to the colony house, and Jim is explaining how they will change the frequency so they can try to get different signals out to reach different people. And Jim brings back all of these snacks. He's like super optimistic. He's throwing around apples to everybody and all of this kind of stuff, which is kind of like,
you mess up, you go in the box.
No, you're not. Yes, and then Donna checks him, and it transitions, back to Kenny and Christy, who now Christy has met Kenny in the kitchen. In Colony House.
She's out of her work clothes.
I noticed that. Belly button out. I was like, Christy, okay. I was like, what's your number? You know what I'm saying? What's one of the funny lines? They be like, I don't know. I was going to come up with a funny line and get her number. But she starts to talk with Kenny. And basically she tells him, like, you know what? I do have feelings for you. I do care for you. And there is a possibility of us being able to have that relationship, but she's still not 100% confident of who she wants to have that relationship with. But she is letting Kenny know that she does have feelings for him and helped him understand it in that vulnerable moment that he had with her. Yeah. Don't feel like
you're alone in this.
Exactly. And this is when we see the team. They start to raise the tower, and it creates this huge moment of joy because the tower starts to go up and they're excited about what they're going to be able to do. And they get to the radio to work. Everybody's rejoicing. And this was weird, man. Like, not only all weird,
of this is weird.
Makes me angry.
It's all weird.
So they get it going. The radio is humming and buzzing. They got it going. And then Tabitha looks over, grabs Jim, kisses him. Great job, baby. But I gotta go.
What?
And then he's like, where are you going? She's like, Plan B, baby.
To dig the hole.
And I'm like, why? Not only just why, but to me, in that moment, when they are this close to being able to accomplish that.
Tabitha, read the room. It's not the time.
Yes.
I could cry.
Yeah, and I was just like, why would you choose that moment to leave? Because wouldn't you want to hang around and see if somebody talked to him through the radio? But she leaves to go dig her hole. And she's gone. And we're back to Boyd, and this is when they start to hear this sound again, that loud horn type sound. And Boyd is, once again, he's still quitting and he's fumbling all over the place. And the storm is increasing, and they continue to climb and push forward, and they see this lighthouse. The lighthouse, which was not far-fetched, because we thought it was like a boat or something like that. We thought they would be near a body of water, but the fact that there's this lighthouse here, maybe there is a body of water nearby.
That's a weird place to have a lighthouse. I don't think lighthouses are usually on the shore somewhere.
I mean, they are on the shore, but like my thing was, where is the water? Like, if the lighthouse is there, you should have been able to see.
That's why I don't think it's
near water. Yeah. It's probably, and I've seen people have theories that maybe it was a checkpoint, like similar to like what you were saying, like a video game. Is it a checkpoint to get to the next place? So that is, really interesting. And this is when, like, this is probably one of the creepiest things that I've experienced so far. Is the storm is increasing. Everybody's starting to run inside because the storm is increasing. They're trying to cover up all of the electronic devices outside because it's raining.
They're blowing up.
They're blowing up. I don't know why they have the electronics outside, but that's a different story. And so they're outside, and they finally get something going on, and they hear a voice. And this is the creepiest thing to me. The voice says hello, and Jim is like, oh my god, I'm talking to somebody, and the voice identifies Jim, and he's like, is this Jim Matthews? And he's like, what? Yeah. And he says,
your wife should not be
digging that hole. And I mean, I got chills right now thinking about that. Like, I got chills right now. When I was watching that episode in that moment here, I said, oh my goodness. So then, of course, he starts to run to his house to try to check on his wife to make sure that she's fine. And then they immediately transition to Tabitha, who's hitting the ground, and the ground crumbles and opens, and she falls to the ground, and she's like in this dark cave. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they about to get her.
All these pictures, that's been drawn
all over the place, and then we see this flashlight, and I'm looking like, oh my god, it's a wrap. And then our boy comes out of the shadows. Victor
comes, and he's like, we gotta get you
out of here. And Victor's the one that starts to point out,
stay here.
Yeah.
To come and get you. Who is they?
Yeah.
Who is they?
Yeah, Victor is on one. And then he shows her, like the paintings that are like all under the ground. And Victor says something to the effect like they paint them. Talking about, like, I guess these monsters or whatever. And then he's like, we gotta leave because this is where they stay, this is where they live. And creepy.
Under the house, they live under the house.
Yeah. And some people are like, if they live under the house, then like, how are the townsmen keeping them from coming in the house and all this other kind of stuff? But just really creepy stuff. And then he runs off, and it transitions to Boyd and Sarah. And
this was the creepiest to me.
Yeah, this was creepy to you. And Boyd is like really breaking down even more. And he's like, just leave me behind. You make it back. And so you can tell the people what we found, what we've discovered.
So the boy in white appears, and he says this place is angry. So that explains the floor cracking in the house. That explains the storm out of nowhere, because this whole show there hasn't been any evidence or signs that there's been storms or even rain, really.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's getting creepy.
Yeah. And a few people have kind of discussed in different groups and stuff like that one of the images shows like a flood, similar to, I guess, like Noah and the Ark or something like that. So it would be interesting if that actually transpires, in season 2. So
maybe that's why the dates are there.
it's possible. So then the boy in the white appears and he points to one of the trees.
The faraway trees.
Yeah, one of the faraway trees, and he basically says, "Go in there. You can find safety there." And Sarah musters Boyd up, at this point, and she's like, "Let's make it to the tree. We can make it to the tree." And she says, "You go in first. I'll come in right after you." And my goodness,
what a way! I mean,
man,
he's stuck in a chimney.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it was such a tight area, like literally 2 by 2, and you could see the fear
and
the panic on his face because he hits the that lighter to try to see what's around him, and it's just so crazy. Nothing but wall. And it kind of ends there, but it made me question a couple of things, and we were talking about it as soon as the episode ended. Did Sarah put him in the tree and follow directly behind him, but the tree put her in a different place versus where Boyd went? Or
absolutely not.
You don't think so?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, or the other thing I was wondering, and you say no, the other thing I was wondering is, did she tell Boyd to go in a tree and she decide not to go in herself and left him there?
She left him.
You think so?
She left him.
Wow.
And this is why I say this, okay? So remember, she's not only hearing the bad voices, she's hearing the good voices also. Mm-hmm. The little boy voice, I don't think the little boy is a good guide or spirit or whatever he's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Remember, the whole way there, she's like saying this place is bad. The woman is saying we need to go back. We need to go back. Now all of a sudden she changes and says, yeah, we're gonna go in this tree. I think just like the thing with killing the little boy, Matthew's boy, with the knife, I think there was another voice that told her, put him in that tree. It'll save everybody. I don't, that's what I think. I think it's another situation because these voices are telling her different things. She knows about the nickname he has. She knows all this other stuff. These voices are telling her to do different things. I really feel like she put him there on purpose in that situation.
But and it's very possible. But the only thing that kind of makes me not feel that way, because what that would mean is that she set him up and she put him in there to die or whatever to happen to him. Because, I was kind of wondering, did she put him in there for his safety and like run back to the town or something like that? And the only reason I'm kind of giving her the benefit of the doubt, and we've talked about her before, we've talked about Fatima and how we don't trust Sarah and Fatima and even the guy that owns the bar. But this episode, she kind of changed my mind because she was really so uplifting and supporting Boyd in his crisis that he was experiencing this entire episode. And she literally was like motivating him. No, we're not going to quit. We're not going to give up. We're going to keep going. We're going to climb the hill.
I see your point now. I see your point.
I don't know, but maybe she's playing him. Maybe she's playing him, but it goes to that point there and it transitions now.
She was willing to kill a kid. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, this is true. But, I mean, according to her, she was doing it because she thought she had to do it. And this is when the episode transitions to back to the cafe. And that radio comes on. Playing that creepy song.
And the lights
flicker.
On.
The lights flicker. And we see this large charter bus pull up. And it's not just a charter bus. They intentionally show us the words Grand Rapids on there, which is fascinating because what's her name, the nurse Christy, her fiance was supposed to be from that area,
Grand Rapids. So it's about to be some love triangle
situation.
Team Christy, Team Kenny versus Team whoever, fill in the blank going on.
Yeah.
So
I mean, just really interesting stuff. And speaking of this bus, there have been so many theories, and I find it so interesting. And some people are arguing that for every person that passes away, there has to be people that replace them. So the Colony House lost a lot of people, right? And then the Colony House lost a lot of people. Then we saw, a couple of other people pass away. So some people are speculating that on that bus, there's going to be people there to make up for the people that have passed away and died. So that I guess the game, or if you're going with that theory that this is a game kind of a situation. But I'm also wondering, are they going to spruce this thing up and give us, and you said this, and I thought it was genius. You said that to this point,
Because I am.
you said that to this point, everybody has kind of gotten along.
Yeah. What happens if you get people who come and they're not as cooperative?
Yes.
They're not as easygoing.
Yes.
They're not as helpful. What happens when you let a socio or psychopath comes to the town? Like, what happens?
Or Jade 2.0.
Or Jade 2.0.
Or to the fifth power.
It's not Jade doing Jade things anymore that we think are cute, So what happens if you get people who are just unscrupulous?
Yeah, I agree. And, it ends there. And, I think that's going to take us kind of into our final thoughts of this episode, and then just kind of the season is in its totality. And as we alluded to earlier, some people, I think that this was the most polarizing episode, if you can say that, because I think a lot of people went into this expecting to get answers. Like,
yeah, and it's really, I think a lot of people are feeling really frustrated, mostly because we don't know if we're going to get a season 2.
Yeah, we don't know if we're going to get a season 2. And they gave us, it almost seems impossible, but they gave us actually, we ended up with more questions now than we did answers.
Yeah, and good shows and good writing does that.
Yeah.
But even with the way it ended, I liked the ending. I mean, it was it freaked me out, it creeped me out. Boyd is trapped in the closet.
Yeah,
not the closet, the chimney.
R. Kelly.
He's trapped in the chimney. How is he getting out the chimney? Will he get out the chimney? He is stuck in the chimney. Chimney.
My goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, I had to do it.
Yeah, you didn't make a whole song.
I had to do
it. But like you said, I feel encouraged a little bit, because I feel like they wouldn't have ended it in such a manner that gives us so many questions that really is going to pique people's interest, that hopefully we get like a season 2.
You know what I want to see in a season 2?
What's
Back
that?
to my further point. I would really love for them, like, what if a cult gets stuck there? What if there's a cult on that bus?
Really interesting.
I want to see something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
It would be crazy. And I just think they did a great job though. With this season overall. And we've talked about this. I have a YouTube channel for other stuff that I do, but this show inspired us so much that we created this channel, and now we're going to produce content where we talk about different shows and things that interest us.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, what are some shows that you think we should start to cover and look at as we move forward? We kind of want to focus on shows that are kind of new, that something that hasn't been out for 5 seasons, and we have to catch up 5 seasons to have an educated conversation about what's going on now. But we've seen a couple of shows. But
I really think we're going to get a season 2. Because it was like you were saying about how the editing was, how it's been editing. What did you say?
Okay, so the last, I would say, 3 episodes, a lot of people have also been kind of complaining about the pacing. And we kind of talked about it a little bit in this episode, but we didn't make this point. They spent a lot of time on just different moments throughout the episode. So, for example, the moment that Kenny had with Christy, right? They literally spent 10 to 15 minutes of them just talking about where they want to go, him sharing what he had in his lamp that has this hidden compartment, really giving us a side of both of those characters that we didn't see. And my question is, why would they do that now? You know what I'm saying? Is it that they're giving us more character development, giving us a more eye into these characters because they're going to give us a season 2? We needed to see that Christy still had that love for her ex if her ex is going to be on that bus. So that's why they needed to spend so much time doing that. We saw the same thing with Fatima and Ellis. You know, why did they spend 15 minutes of them standing there talking about how she got to the town and him talking about he's going to marry her and all of this kind of stuff? And I think it's because and if we get a season 2, I think Fatima is going to turn out to be a much different character than we think she is.
Yeah.
So
and we all know that shows they're filmed way before, long ago.
Yeah.
But you can still go back and do post edits and change things.
Especially since this show.
Especially pacing.
Yeah, pacing, and especially since this show got so much momentum. The show started out, not a lot of people were talking about it, and I still feel like it's an underrated show. And I feel like once it started to get the momentum though, because I noticed they have an Instagram for it, and when I first looked at their Instagram, I felt like it was at like 2,000 followers. Then it was like 2 or 3 weeks went by. Now they're at like 5,000 followers. Mm-hmm. So you could definitely see the interest increasing.
Even Stephen King tweeted about it.
Yeah. So I'm hoping we get episode 2 so we're not left hanging. It just seems like a wonderful show. What are some of the shows that you want to see us talk about? We thank y'all for experiencing this journey with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
And comment and keep talking to us. Give us some show suggestions.
Exactly. As always, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, fucking science. Peace.